Yes, it is. The market sniper, the crypto sniper. Today, crypto hat. Checking in with the crypto guys, and thank you for the massive support we received on our 8-hour long with 8 guests. Back-to-back marathon great awakening. If you haven't seen that, best comments we've ever had, most interaction we've ever had, really blowing off all the hinges, I suppose, off the door. Go and find that, by the way, on the Market Sniper. Put him in, the Market Sniper, if you aren't already following the Market Sniper. It's just doing so well and so much insight, especially in light of recent events. And you've had both the dollar coming off, of course, you've had all the FTX, the Great Awakening. Go and check it out. Some of the best guests we've ever had back to back, all in. There just wasn't a dud in there. Go and find it. It will be pinned comment on this video for you to watch. Okay, go and check it out. What am I going to do today with you? Though, first things first, what are we going to discuss? We do a bit of a technical retrospective on the FTX failure, what we thought we'd seen, what happened, how it all panned out, what we've learned since, etc. But there's been a lot printed, lots of threads. Some of you will eventually get to some fatigue on this and we have to move on. So the second part is what Bitcoin does next and why I am currently again bearish, and reiterate on the likes of Sol, what some people have said with regards to our opinion on Sol. So there's quite a few things to be kicked into. So let's get straight away into it. So we started here on the Crypto Sniper, the channel. And I was highlighting the silent disliked winner. I'm going to pause it so that I don't come blasting at you. But so that coming particular up to video, a possible target rest. That particular video, yes indeed, yes indeed, yes indeed. The silent dislike video was 3 months ago. 3 months ago, what was that? Let's get check. Maybe it's lying. August the 10th. August the 10th, 3 months ago. Don't forget the notes, by the way, here. You can always go in. You can secure. We still had an FTX link, oopsie, for getting it. You got your gold, your silver, etc., and everything else in there from that August the 10th, 2022. So what were we saying back then? If you have a look at this video and how did we miss and what could we have done better? And there's a ton we could have done better. It costs family and staff and community members to a degree, varying amounts of them by varying bits. So many people were affected by these criminals that have now had a real soft New York Times letter. No one mentions that he is an absolute criminal. There was real calculation in this. And the conclusion I am coming to, guys, is actually that they're going to run defense for him because he was doing a certain amount of the devil's work that they wanted to have done. That's right. We will cover that aspect as well. But just in terms of the technical aspects, we're going to cover a couple of things we said, and also a very good thread. Let's get a very good thread. Here's the tweet I wanted to find. Sorry for the delay. So Jason Choi's done a very good breakdown of the thread. Worth a follow. Give him a follow on the FTX. But I'm going to jump. You can go right at the beginning. Some of it you already will know. I'm going to jump straight to one particular area in this thread at number 52. So after the bankruptcy announcement, withdrawals were finally paused, allegedly. Hundreds of millions began to be siphoned off FTX. Ryan Miller claimed that FTX was moving its own assets to cold storage. It wasn't its own assets. It had stolen our money. Everything was ours. It should have been seized. However, this was likely not the truth. No kidding. A seasoned on-chain sleuth, Zach XBT, revealed a potential hack had likely occurred. So the black hats were first to withdraw, bridging assets, swapping altcoins for FDAI and BNB. Swapping coins for FDAI and BNB. Okay, so what actually happened is BNB was being one of the beneficiaries. So people have to understand, as a result of this failure of this exchange, Binance has now become virtually the 80% dominant, huge wolf almost in the centralized exchange space. So what does that mean? Well, This particular call on Binance that we did, and we showed charts as early as May in a previous video, and I'm showing you clips here now where Binance, even against BTC, so for those of you not clear, this is actually Bitcoin that you're seeing over here. Tools are as buggy as all hell today. Pink is showing you that this is actually Binance versus Bitcoin that we were modeling. That was highlighting that we saw Binance Bitcoin round about the 1%, touch over 0.01, and we're actually looking for 0.0156. That is a 56% increase from 0.01. So talk about a 50% odd, and it already begun its journey quite some way. We were seeing dominance of Binance token. So this is telling you that in and around the August period, in advance, money was already moving into the Binance token out of other things. Out of other things you were getting. The fact that this centralized exchange was now going to become an absolute giant. The second biggest exchange was about to do a major deposit fraud, theft, criminality. Sabbaty and Francus, bastard motherfuckers, was about to steal everybody else's money that were of the trader speculator category because they had a decent trader speculator platform. So that's what was happening. And of course, the biggest loser was already beginning to be FTT. So had you done that dominance, and what did we say? Let's revisit what did we say at the time. So let's have a little look and play that. That's a good performance in a difficult set of circumstances. And this is the value of relative strength. So had you wanted to hold, Binance was your hold. We have fund managers in our community that have to be in crypto, that running crypto funds. It's incredibly valuable if you have to hold a minimum percentage of crypto to still fulfill your mandates and not have everything in crash, to be in the token that's not dying in relative strength terms and is actually up since June during a period where Bitcoin was 29K, is now 24K. So had you held the Bitcoin at 29, it's fallen to 24. Had you held the Binance at 297, it's gone up 10% in an environment that Bitcoin shed 15%. That is alpha. That is valuation up. And I know those percentages don't sound exciting to crypto kiddies, but that is very important on relative performance. If you understand that, click a link. Go to themarketsniper.com. 3 W's, themarketsniper.com. And book a call. Yes, indeed. So essentially what was actually happening is in the June-July period when we started in May. Our first chart that we showed you previously was a May chart on Binance, and we were highlighting that it appeared to us that during this period Binance would actually be doing very well. It is my internal opinion that the concept of the Hunt volatility funnel, guys, the concept of it, you have to understand, is, as we've regularly referred to it, the news before the news, and also the forensic detective of real truth. It is the forensic detective of real truth, because as we've been saying, you will often find that this takedown, as I've highlighted, was probably planned and orchestrated, and early hands were already positioning in advance of events to occur. You don't wait till everything blows up and try to do it. You start moving early. If you have inside information, you start moving early. This is the tweet that I'm referring to here on Hootsuite. And the swapping of altcoins for the beneficiaries at FDI and BNB. Remember, this is a death of an exchange. The largest beneficiary is going to be an other centralized exchange. The other thing that was truly interesting that came out of that flow was the highlighted aspect that someone pointed out, that 455 million was withdrawn out of the FTX platform, and 415 of the 455 actually went. So we're working through this thread, and apologies that I'm milling around a little bit today. I thought I had everything in the right place, and then it started to get a little weird, and I will find that tweet for you. So the biggest net cash inflow for future trade and future assets was in fact Binance, who benefited most out of FTX. That's not that it's a long-term good thing and that it's super served it. I think CZ is the first to admit that the entire downside, there we go, the entire downside on the crypto space overall is probably more negative than the fact that he is now the most dominant player. But in a bull market, when things return and people are leverage trading, one of the biggest beneficiaries in terms of cash flows cannot be denied as being Binance. 411 and the rest ran. They lost that. That was dated on November the 7th. Boy, do I just wish I was that money. I was flying. As fate would have it, I booked a plane trip on the 5th and the 6th and came straight back to unpack and then clear closets. And all of this flew over my head and I missed my opportunity to save myself and my community. And we were in there. So this is a very interesting point at a cash flow point of view. Certainly, as a centralized exchange, he has benefited immensely by receiving new assets under management. So that was the video that was highlighting the performance of Binance versus BTC, which as we'd already highlighted in our original May chart, which was looking at it even during this period over here as a potential break. The break took place in and around June, and if we have a look at it today, you can see that the Binance BTC chart has indeed shot that target. Binance Bitcoin, it's clear the face there, and you can actually see that it is in fact from the 1% levels down here, 90s, 98s, etc. It did in one point actually trade as high as 1.97. So it was almost at its highest point at 2% from up there. But if we take it where it is now, you're at about 65% better. This is a relative performance valuation. This is the gift of the HVF method that actually gave us a news event potentially that we never were smart enough. We didn't sit down and say, what does this mean? I didn't give it enough thought that there's going to be this Binance overperformance. And how does a centralized exchange suddenly overperform? I was putting it down to maybe the BSC chain, releasing lots of new tokens, getting NFTs, some fluff story. I never actually thought of the chosen ones of the New York Sabbatean Frankist actually being a takedown expert, a funder for Zelensky, and all the other news that may be true or may not be true actually taking place. So there's many different narratives that could have fed this move in relative strength in Binance. And it wasn't just against BTC that we saw this. We saw this against, where did we also highlight? So that was our clip that we spoke of. That was, as I say, we've already shown you that video. Where else did this come up? I was in South Africa over here, and I mentioned the following as well, and that we saw an expectation that we were generally bearish, but one token was going to gain ground. So this is again what was said. That was a month ago. Be major moves in dominances. In our opinion, major moves in dominances in that top 15, particularly that top 10, that are going to see significant swings, including one token that's going to go up over 50% in dominance. And I'm not talking about Bitcoin, although I expect the dominance will go up on Bitcoin. I was talking about Binance, and we were discussing this inside our community, and I was discussing it again. So that was around about 19th of September. Boy, that would have given us a good amount of time to get out of Dodge as well. This was the update 8 days ago, when we were highlighting Binance dominance, but also Binance versus the FTT. This video was showing Binance versus FTT. Now at these points, 8 days ago, we were now starting to come into the real storm of the event that went down. And again, there was probably only a day left to have got properly out, and or they had just begun freezing the accounts. I can't recall which. Again, I'd wish I'd managed to get more out. We were highlighting the Binance divided by the FTT token, which recently on FTX, by Bitfinex, sorry, not FTX, FTX doesn't exist anymore, on Bitfinex, no longer on other platforms are they accepting deposits of this particular token. So if we just go instead of dominance BNB FTT, and we do that again. Let's go with the, I'm not sure there's even FTT charts left nowadays. It doesn't seem like they are a great priority anymore. All that data and history will soon be gone. The FTT token is not even, are we even going to see it listed anywhere? Anyone offering it? I won't even be able to do the chart for you anymore, guys. It seems like FTT. Wow, I should have checked that before I even started talking today. Where is it? Bybit, FTT. Is there anyone who's still doing it? FTT USD. So now currently at about 1.42, no further deposits will be taken. This coin is in essence, in my opinion, largely dead. Why can I not divide the one by the other? Let's just get BNB, divide FTT. We'll take it from anywhere. Let's do that one and see it. So you can see the hyper performance of Binance token to the FTT. It was not what I was expecting actually. I was meant to do it the other way around, and if we divide them, we cross them over, it's all but over bar the singing. What was interesting is that BitBoy seemed to have some information and was actually accurate on his information. I don't tend to watch his stuff, I'm afraid, because I hear a lot of chitter chatter, but he probably deserves credit. There's a lot of people that will be trying to claim credit. So Richard Hart is trying to claim credit. I think he just has a general anti-centralized exchanges, and I think there's something to be said for that. However, if the primary cause or reason for crypto at the moment, and here's my case regarding his position, is that everyone tells you it's supposed to be this new transaction money. People aren't transacting with crypto. Everyone tells you it's supposed to be so many things, but most of it is not happening. At the moment, its primary goal is speculation. People who want to trade it long, short, generally. Now, there have been some aspects of DeFi. And I want to also, on the point of DeFi, while we're looking at this flag, and I'm going to come back to this DeFi discussion because this is an important part. I want to highlight how this is probably pointing to the next leg to the downside for the FTT token, which should almost, I'm almost stunned that it still has a value technically. So let's get to the DeFi discussion. In our reset sniper, so these are all various aspects where we had some of the pieces of the puzzle of what ended up happening, but didn't quite join it all together. So this is the reset sniper on Odyssey. And I was highlighting how the thing the central banking cartel hates most is the ability for stable coins and tokens to earn interest. So DeFi. The key thing is they were running, and during this period, this was very much with the very low interest rate. You see, it was November, the end of last year. They were running disproportionately low interest rates to what I knew to be already a very high inflation rate. We had asset price inflation. We had every form already showing. They were denying it still at that point. Remember, this is now November the last year, so it's more than a year ago, before we'd even gone through transitory and it's just a blip, then it's transitory, and then admitting it was a problem. That's all been this year. I was highlighting that you in DeFi could actually get certain degrees of return, and it was I mean, even if you take Hex, you lock up your money for the maximum, you're getting 39%. You lock it up for smaller periods, but you commit to not touch it, you're actually minting new tokens. So that's not a promo, that's not a demo, it's just a comment. DeFi was broadly showing some of these attributes. They hate stable coins because they want to be the purveyor of money. Remember, they will never let you have your own money. And this is the point I was making on the ride-alongs on Reset Sniper. And B, they want to attack both stable coins and the fact that you were getting a truer idea of interest rate in the DeFi markets than you were getting on your savings, which was next to nothing in the normal TradFi markets, where they control monetary policy, devalue your money, and give you garbage in terms of interest rates in return. So they are inherently criminal, and they like to hold that monopoly on criminality. And the big fallout out of this FTX collapse is, in fact, not we've got a criminal and a fraud and we properly need to string him up and he's stolen a whole bunch of money. No. If you give loads to the Dems and you participate in a possible circulation of funds with Ukraine, it is very ironic that we had our first very dovish inflation report just as the midterms landed. The dollar sold off on account of, yay, inflation, we down on inflation, all of that good stuff. It coincided with Zelensky talking more of settlement and peace at the same time as FTX also blew up, and the democratic elections that were being funded by all of this was all taking place, and the big shindig was all being exposed very much at the same time. What are the odds? What are the odds that you start to get, we are seeking settlement, and these can be the new boundaries in a war that has been receiving funds, taxpayers' funds, and some of that is being recycled back utilizing crypto. And you have your Ashkenazi, Sabbatean Frankist, pasty pie eater sending all the funds to Dems and all of these people for running a midterm election, and all these things come to an end. And the surprisingly expected red wave of Republican support doesn't really transpire after a number of days. It's a very interesting macro situation that we actually got all these inflections, including a massive slowdown in the dollar. So if I take you to the currency markets, the bedevilment was macro over Bitcoin. And the crypto markets has been the strength of the dollar. And just going into last week, the dollar actually got properly slammed after a dovish inflation report. Properly slammed. It had run its targets. It was due to pull back. And I did do a lot of traditional market updates on the fact that this huge move that we were in fact involved in calling, and said that is your absolute confirmation, and we suspected you would have a bottom and that this blue line wouldn't run. That blue line was the previous low that set up this continuation pattern that you will now see coming into view, that we said was a sustained period of dollar dominance in this market, in the market conditions that we experienced. So I had done quite a bit of traditional finance updating for you guys in terms of this. We got that upside move and we made that target. You have a final blow off through it, as you can see on the dollar chart. Bring it back into focus. You have a final blow off. But we were getting squeezing wedges, which means too many people buying the dip, running up underneath it, and eventually you get a final melt up, and then you get a serious spill. That has happened now, and I think we are going to rewind up the dollar strength for further upside to come during this period. So maybe something like this, and something like that. And then we go again. During this period, however, crypto has a small pause. I think it's very soft environment. I think it's going to underperform relative to tech. So let's explain that and go to the Bitcoin market. So that's what I anticipate is happening for the dollar. And this would normally be very supportive for crypto. But guess what? They don't want you to make money. They've just stolen from all of us who engaged in the exchanges, the most serious, decent exchange. And I have to say it was better than Binance for actually trading, as by design. They've just stolen all of those funds, part of a hollowing out. That has caused a knock-on pressure on crypto at the very moment it should have got a pump. Have a look what happened to the equity markets. During this period. The equity markets, oh my goodness, the US 30, which is the Dow index, absolutely ripped on it. The usual early money had already started coming in. But if you look here, we had a head and shoulders target that made its target. The first time it made its target was actually there. It's absolutely ripped and is getting a bit soft here at the neckline of the head and shoulder that we highlighted for you over there. I should probably give it a bit more airspace. You can see the whole pattern, something like that. And you can see exactly what was called the head and shoulders. A really big rip. Where's crypto's rip? Well, the second biggest exchange went down, so they got denied that rip on the dollar strength at weakness during this period. Sorry for the dollar weakness that has occurred, which has been the first significant real scale high momentum weakness of the dollar in a substantial time. And at the same time, the news out of the New York Sabbatean Francus type news media that is not at all, who interviewed someone who should be arrested for the love of money, hasn't been arrested. Never mind. I mean, this is very much the same people that have Maxwell's client list and don't release the names for 60 years, and there are no further arrests when there is a pedophile or all chain of a sex island of pedophiles, and she has all the names, and they say that's the end of the story, we aren't looking into this any further. It's the same group of people that are doing that, my good friends. So anyway, you had equities rip, even the SPY ripped a little bit, and the Nasdaq not so much because it's high beta. But when we go back up to our friend Bitcoin, that was actually not losing so much against it. It was having some minor levels of holding up against the Nasdaq recently. We warned that A, that's a flag, and B, that's a rising wedge. And you actually got a little pop out the top before you sold off. This is your FTX effect. That right there is your FTX effect, which has stolen from crypto a potential bid during the dollar weakness period. All of which has transpired, these many coincidences that saw a dovish inflation report come out that killed the dollar as you go into a midterm voting season, that also led to a crypto exchange that was making substantial, the second biggest after yours, George Sorosness, donations to the Democrat Party. Pandemic, they also funded, by the way, pandemic, future pre-pandemic potential information share. And they were behind funding the debunking of ivermectin as an alternative for fighting the coronavirus. There you go. I've just blown the dynamics of this YouTube by saying that phrase. So they funded the science that found ivermectin no use for the pandemic. All FTX Sam Bankman-Fried. That is why he does not go to jail, because he is part and parcel of the dark state doing their wishes. He is a brat, a kid who didn't do half the things. They opened over 100 countries, made mergers, acquisitions, JVs, all of this in 2 years and back down to bust in no time. There's no way in hell a handful of orgy sniffing amphetamines brats in a Bahamian mansion managed all of that without a circle of corporate finance and enablers very much sympathetic to the cause of crushing a large sector of crypto, challenging DeFi and the ability of earning interest, which was actually reflecting very negatively on the central banking cartel that were not upping inflation in 2021, when I was saying rates should be higher to fight what is already a high inflation that they were saying didn't exist, then only just exists or is a blip, and then said was transitory before they panicked and did in a row 4 times 0.75% interest hikes. So this is all the very interesting narratives, not to mention the Russia-Ukraine war and the funding and the money laundering and everything that's very clearly in your face. So here we are. HVF method gave you the fact that the dollar was due a rest when it ran its target. It gave you the fact that Binance token is going to outperform. And even today, you've got Bitcoin that was 24K, you heard me say, now trading 16. So one is 4 times 6, the other is 4 times 4. You've lost 2 of your 4s. That was wrong. 4 times 6. Yeah. And the other is 4 times 4. 16 is 4 times 4. Sounds right. You lost 2. You lost 8 or 1/3 of your money in Bitcoin. I got there in the end. Jesus, holy Moses. What's happening to me today? I got there in the end. You lost 1/3 of your money, whilst in actual fact, BNB was around 269 and is 271 today, and that's after a rather nasty correction. Is it now too going to get a bit of harvest, and will this rising wedge take over, and will you get a break to the downside with the next down leg of Bitcoin? Is that dominance period over? What happens is, after you've run a target, which you have done, you normally get progress decay. That might be all that you got on your run to the 6.4 of the Binance dominance. So now the Binance trade may not be as good or as interesting for you. It might actually feel even worse on account of the fact that post it, you get a pullback, much as you've seen on the dollar index that is now taking place. But the dollar index might start soon getting a bid and firming up a little bit, and we go back to crypto pain. This brings us to our friends on Sol. When we said Sol at $34, it was our view that it would start to break down. That occurred again months before this collapse has occurred. What happened to your $3 Sol? I sold at 30. I'm now missing the ride. I think you're going off the rails and yelling at everyone. Peak euphoria. You're a perma bear. It's a great bottom call for bulls. I wonder how that panned out for him. Really, you should look in the mirror, because you became exactly what you preach, irrational. I am irrational. Where is the dump? These predictions aren't looking too clever right now. This is the sell Sol at 34, because you might recall it actually had a little run up first. Always the same speech, and yet situation remains the same. Let's go have a look at that Sol chart. These are what my friends here in the comment section were saying to me. You see, you got a run. You're actually traded at a wick level for a nanosecond, 38.71. We said accumulate shorts. By the way, you would never have run your stop, which should be placed on the other side of the 39 level there. Would it have been pleasant? No. How are you doing now? Did any of these guys come back in the YouTube comments and say, thank you that I got a 65% loss of value from 35 down to 13.95? How many do you think? How many do you think? Oh no, oh no. Instant gratification right away, must do exactly what you say without a second movement. It must hit the second that it all transpires. On the Sol call, we warned that this was a key level. These funnels were key, and so that you would have low vol, a flat shoulder, and show some time hanging here. But boy, did it come, and it came good. And it came good just like we said it should. And those that don't know where to place stops and want the exact second that things can happen must go back to fairyland and go put in the Disney movies and try spot all the sexual innuendo, because that's how I feel towards them. That's a joke, by the way. I love having them. It's good to have your haters. I love to go back. I love to go back and see them, and it's for the fun of it. It's for the laugh, because people don't see what's happening, and it reminds traders of what they're all about. We all are impatient, want instant gratification, and want to be thrown a fish. We don't even want to gut it, clean it, and cook it. We just want to sit down and be served fish fillets. Well, actually, you've got to do some fishing too. You've got to do some descaling, and sometimes you stand and you guess what? Nothing nibbles for a while. It's called fishing, okay? But generally, that shout on Sol is absolutely accurate, because since 34, it's gone down. Not that I'm benefiting any much, because I liked one particular platform and I had over consolidated my funds. Having warned about counterparty risk, I got wrecked for counterparty risk, which is a great fail on my behalf. And I'm sorry to myself and to all the others that were similarly wrecked by that awful man that I hope does jail time. Anyway, so that is where Sol is right now. Oh, it's getting a little bit of support at a legacy funnel. Oh dear. So having called this left shoulder macro head after calling a monarch head and shoulder up here, you can learn all about these little names and details. There's the first one, by the way, that made target. That gave us our new neckline, which was my chosen neckline, the key level of significance, and it is calling for a 352, and we still expect it to happen, and that is your spiller. And true traders recognize that that was an exceptional call. So we called Binance up, we called Sol down, and I lost a whole bunch of money. And that, my friends, is life. Isn't it beautiful? Oh, dearie me. But nonetheless, it doesn't always end that way, I can thankfully say. But boy, was it a chastening time in crypto. Not to mention, I was also dollar dominant, so distracted. Unluckiest dates, I chose to travel 5th and 6th, arrived on a weekend, cleared my closet and unpacked my bags and woke up to all this drama, and it was too late to withdraw. So there you go. Those are all my excuses for being wrecked. Okay, so still to happen, still to come. If you can find an exchange you trust, if you can get leverage on a perp, or if you can find a way of actually getting a transaction to reflect that. Let's drop the time frame, because that's a 2-day chart, and have a look on the smaller time frame. Now, isn't it funny? It just runs our key levels, and what does it do? It is setting up a possible continuation. But what about Bitcoin? On the same time frame, what about Bitcoin? Okay, normally we better with our forensic detective. Normally we pick up more of the dots, and normally we make some money, but not this time. That has just passed. But new opportunities are afoot. And this is your God market. It just got resisted at a legacy key level, as you can see, this same level over here. And it is forming a continuation pattern, and there are levels that are required to be run with momentum. And we have said these levels will fail and will happen. I've had people in the comments say it won't run 17K. That was back up top there, which we've now run 15.5. So unfortunately, we get a lot of people that are in disbelief. This is not a good time for crypto. They do not want you to have your own money. They want to crush DeFi. They will be for stable coins next, in my opinion. They do not want alternatives to their dollar that they do not control. Although I'm quite sure they have backdoors in all of these cryptos ready, manufactured already, and have already underground penetrated it. It's just the surface official narrative hasn't caught up yet. So they are slowly getting the regulation part done, and they are going to regulate because of that centralized exchange. And that's not what was required, because regulation has never stopped frauds. It didn't stop Corzine, it didn't stop MF Global, it didn't stop Bernie Madoff, it didn't stop the trillions that were paid to the banks during the subprime crisis, it didn't stop the ratings agencies from rating debt as AAA. It didn't stop a damn thing. It gave them the power to decide who they prosecute and who they let get away with murder. And if you're part of the death cult, then you get away with murder. If you do the death cult's wishes and requests, you get away with murder. And let me tell you, SBF, in terms of the long term, will face very little. I'm prepared to stick my neck out and say he won't even get jail time. He will not even get jail time. That's what I'm going to say. I would love for him to get it, but I'm going to stick my neck out and say he'll get suspended sentence, community service, cooperated with the officials, did his damnedest, held his hand on his heart, was really sorry. Other people mislabeled funds. Labelings of the fund. I didn't put a right label on. The liars, the frauds, the thieves. They are insincere thieves that have stolen from us and funded an election, funded a war, funded the next pandemic, all the future jails, all the future lockdowns, all the slush funds and pots have all been topped up with my good old money, your good old money, and everyone else that traded on FTX money. Anyway, key other point actually that acting aside, the interesting thing is the US. They allowed the US withdrawals and they stole the international's money. You see the cleverness in that. The regulators would be far more under pressure to engage if there was a local voting bloc inside the country that had been shafted by people inside their same country. That would have seen great demands. Right now, he's a Bahama company that has gone and banged and screwed a bunch of offshore people that were trading on a crypto thing that officially they don't regulate just yet. He gets away with it. It's highway robbery that's taken place in the Wild West where there is no police and there's no law. Guess what? You're probably a bad boy, but we're coming and we'll future have laws and we'll future, have districts and jurisdiction, but right now we'll pretend we don't. Okay, this is a negative piece of price behavior, guys. Bitcoin down. Bitcoin is a down. I expect these levels to run. I expect the 15K to run. You're hearing it from me. What am I telling you? I'm telling you the next thing that's coming on crypto. More downside. And who else could you short? Well, you could, of course, make some money on Sol, providing you have a place to short it. Do you want to go to Binance? Can you trust exchanges? Am I putting any meaningful amount in any centralized exchange? No, I ripped everything out of crypto.com. The other key thing that was really, really important and interesting is he seemed to have more money than anyone in the world. Hundreds of millions on naming stadiums. Second biggest Democrat donor. Crypto.com is very similar and I don't like it. Formula One sponsorship, UFC sponsorship. Hey, you got a sport, we'll splurge and we'll buy our brand, our logo, all over this damn thing. They have been doing this, all these mega marketing. I've not seen anything to that scale. Look at Binance, that is what, 10, 20 times bigger than FTX was possibly by assets. They were never even spending nearly that amount. These guys were splurging like there was no tomorrow to get momentum. They wanted momentum. Leverage and momentum. The gambler, it's the same old set that runs the gambling, that runs the opioids, that runs the drugs, that runs all the monopolies, all the addicted clients, all of them the same set. And guess what? They were spending your money to pump it. And we see very similar in the Israeli Cypriot Forex dealers that the minute that you deposit funds in there, the one told me, because we were looking at a platform, the minute clients deposit funds there, just use it straight away for marketing. He looked me in the face and said it. You just use it for marketing. They will lose it in time. If not, you will use somebody else's deposit to pay them back if they ever ask for a withdrawal. In other words, it's just a question of time before they give it to you anyway. You may as well use it now. That was this man's morality, his mentality, and how he went about it. A tech developer for a Forex platform that is hosted outside of his home country. It's just another round of Goyim stuffing. So anyway, as we look at all of this, this is downside for me. So that was an 18 rally and you were as low as 15. It was around 18 and 15.5 to about 80. I see about 3 grand coming short from here. I think you run all of these, you possibly go sub 14. I expect these key levels of significance to be taken with momentum in a downside sell-off, with momentum that will then see a snapback rally and see this form as resistance. So something that will represent something like this. Boom, bosh, smashy, crashy, down, rally, something along the lines like that. And then the scope becomes, do we go again? And that potential remains a bearish bias for me, but subject to whatever price behavior is delivered. This is not bottoming behavior. Dear Bitcoin maxis, so we've got to address the Bitcoin maxis in all of this. You're stupid, you deserve it, you were on a centralized exchange. We are smarter than you. Okay, you are. Okay, so you think A, you've circumvented all the dark state's efforts to actually penetrate and monitor in a blockchain that can be tracked with numbers that show when you spend money, who's received it, whatever, and that information could never be used against you. You are not a supporter of, say, Monero. And if you are a supporter of Monero, you think that the dark state doesn't have the capacity to bully, coerce the people that formed it and get backdoors established in it. My dear people, the control structure is far darker, far larger, and far more violent and aggressive than you even know. And they will never let you have your own money. They will never let you have your own money. And it's time they asserted themselves over crypto. That's how they see it. Downside, downside. They could do a hack of Bitcoin. They could do an inflation bug of Bitcoin. Richard Hart himself, we've got to come back to him, has highlighted that that's already occurred before. Many things can happen. And even your Trezor, how many of you have had a Nano S and received non-stop spam? Oh, we lost our list. Just do this, update your password. So there are all forms of potential traps on security. Digitalized scarcity is not the same as holding real money in your hand yourself. In case you're wondering, this is not a matchbox or a box of cigarettes. It is also rarity, scarcity in a metal bar, and I suggest you should think about having some of this. I know you're on a crypto channel. I know you don't like it. I know Peter Schiff is a bad man in your books. Maybe he isn't always right by my method, but there is something to be said for a good old piece of proper hard as lead that you hold in your hands. So to the Bitcoin maxis that think they've got their Nano S wallet and they're super safe, I have to say the following to you. Until you get taken down, they are coming. This is the beginning of counterparty risk events, not the end. Do you know central bank digital tokens are now being trialed by 12 major banks? 12-week-long trial is now being run. Do you know every major crisis actually has a drill just before it? That's right. They give it a go first and say, we're going to try something. It's just a drill. And then when it works, it goes live. And then all the problems happen. Chaos, everyone's preparing for Christmas. Boom! No money for Christmas. There's only so many shoplifting days left till Christmas Day. Yes, sir. Your money in your bank is gone, and you have problem reaction solution time for a CBDC solution to be presented to you that they are currently testing in a potential drill right now, but your Bitcoin is going to survive as a competitor to a surveillance token that they can take away and add to at any time in a wallet. They're going to let something that is clearly superior coexist at the same time, because they've suddenly decided it's okay that you have awesome money when we are trying to sell shit money that's going to track everything. Oh dear, oh dear. Think through that logic, friends. Think through that logic. This is a down, and I think there could be bad news. Some of it could come for stables. How do they take Binance down? A BUSD attack could be very damaging, both to Binance, the exchange, its balance sheet, and also to stable coins that they don't like very much. Is it necessarily going to happen? No. Could it happen? Possibly. An attack on Bitcoin? Almost certainly. They do not want you to have your own money, my friends. Security law should say that Ethereum itself is in fact a security, because it has the expectation of making money off the work of others at as many points. I have retweeted the way that is done. Do I want it to be like that? No. Hey, I want freedom. But ETH is going to be useful to them. ETH is the Sam Bankman-Fried of crypto. He ain't going to get punished so bad. He's going to be useful. They are going to register your property on that, my friends, and you will have to declare your value. And if you under-declare, they will print up some tokens and buy it off you and turn you into a tenant in your own home. That's right. You will own nothing and be happy, as they are already very effectively doing to us. So what do? Get out of money out of the banks as well as out of crypto, as part of my opinion. If you feel safe to short it. But remember, you're at exchange risk. That counterparty risk has never been bigger. I see Bitcoin going further down. I see Bitcoin going further down in a breakdown here that will probably bounce and make maybe one of my levels that I like right here. It could even have a 12 run, it could even have an 11 run, but it might just do the 13 first. This is quite a small setup. It doesn't necessarily always, they can overperform, but it doesn't always necessarily lead to much bigger. So you could just run these and run, but this is a bearish structure. So how far down? I'll do the target when the pattern is finished forming, but at least points to me to making the 13 zone, running these levels definitely, and making a 13.9, let's say, going sub 14 is a guess as part of this leg, in the same way that that has gone down. And many people saying, but moving average, but MACD. I saw someone I really like, he's a good guy, he's always pretty sincere, but he's doing a MACD and he's saying the MACD is negative and they are about to cross. And in previous events, Bitcoin went up. In bull markets, in previous events, that did happen. This is clearly a bear market. This is clearly also a situation where there is a macro that is very non-supportive of what's going on, and MACDs are lagging indicators, and you can continue to go down and make ever lower lows, and you can continue to have lines that are getting very, very close but go lower. The sensitivity of MACDs reduce when you have long periods of going sideways, and you need bigger downsides to properly smash the down and take the MACDs even lower. You don't always get that. Indicator sensitivity gets desensitized after big moves and slowing down of downside. That does not mean a bottom. Divergences at rate of acceleration does not mean a bottom. Because my acceleration in my Porsche Turbo is dropping does not mean I'm going slower. Go through the gears to 300 kilometers an hour, and you will be accelerating a lot slower at 297 to 300 than you were at 30 to 40 kilometers an hour. That does not mean you're about to stop. Okay, so we've had a good old chuckle and share. Bitcoin is in bear structure still for further downside, in my opinion. What is about Ethereum? Is there something to be said for Ethereum? It is not significantly better. Again, I would imagine that if Bitcoin goes down, this structure will go down. You may be visiting the $1,000 mark again. Oh, they won't like that. If Bitcoin is going down, which I assess it to be, you may be visiting the $1,000 mark again. You might not. You might just fall short. Again, I'll wait for targets for that. But you have this. You could most likely run that low or revisit this low. It's possible you could, in fact, even do that. But it's going to come in stages. It could be a huge spill. It could overperform. But I think the target for this, yeah, you're going to be around about, I think there's a chance you're going to see the 1,000, but you'll put in a new low if Bitcoin is down. So that's where it is for ETH. Is ETH the weakest in the pack? No. Sol almost is my personal favorite with outperformance. I think that's going to be the one that rewards you most. But have I done a conclusive list and run through them all? Many were very excited about XRP, but unfortunately that got stomped on thanks to the exchange events. Are they going to play a role in it? Well, it's amazing how the crypto market cap is sorting itself out. We said to you, the dominance of stable coins are going to continue to grow. You now have 3 through to 6. One is an exchange. The others are stable coins, one of which is the stable coin of that exchange. It's Bitcoin, Ethereum. Stable, 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 and exchange. And then you get XRP, banker coin. This is your freedom, my friends. A centralized exchange, it's stable coin, 2 other stable coins backed by treasuries. You guessed it. That's why they've gotten softer on the stables. They found a new mug in town to buy their garbage, overinflated, overvalued, not to true discovery price levels. We are getting absence of liquidity, absence of volume behind the debt markets. Japan had 6 or 7 days on theirs where it didn't trade. The British had a problem. They had to print money and be the buyer of last resort on their own debt. The Fed is worried about the biggest market in the world not having any liquidity. Why? There's so much of it. Well, no one wants to buy anymore. There's so much of it. And there's plenty of people that need to sell it to keep the Ponzi scheme going. That's what your stable coins are backed on. They'll probably go bust with a banker bust, which could also do. They could kill the stables just by killing the larger market, which is long overdue its own form of death. So you have a banker token, Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is going to be your property token and all your dApps. And you're saying Bitcoin is the sole true unfettered with. They've let one get through. It was there from the beginning. They let it all get through. And it just happened to come out during the time of 09 when everyone was going to be peak anger at the banker bailout with the socializing of the losses and the capitalizing of the profits for a millionaire class. That's the world. And then you have Cardano, a meme coin, and Matic. That's 8, 9, and 10. My dear friends, those top 7 are all at various stages of capture or collapse, in my world opinion, of whether you will get true surveillance-free transaction and store of value that will hold you in good stead. Anyway, that is my take. It is not a good time to be in crypto. It is very much looking like the full regulatory force is going to officially come, and the back doors have been in place for a while. Watch out. Bitcoin can go lower. Okay, with that merriment, what should you do? Should you exit entirely? I mean, I sound so bearish. Everyone complaining, your narrative's horrible. You're such a bear. There's nothing left for us. Why are we even involved? It's terrible. You can short it if you can find a place safe to short it. But I would be getting out of banks. I would be getting out of everything. Counterparty risk is here. That's a dramatic message. You're going to say, why do I need to listen to this guy anymore? Get something you hold, it's yours. Buy a home, live in it, get silver, get gold, get electricity, get water, independent, and you are in a far better place than trading crypto tokens, making money in the ether that you may never get to see again. Ask me, I know. Okay, until next time, we'll be back, and we're still covering your greatest market, your freedom and liberty money. Yep, we'll be there to cover every stage, and if we're wrong, we'll be the first to admit it. Until next time, enjoy yourselves. Book a call. There is wealth to be made in reset times on 3wsthemarketsniper.com, and we continue to grow our wealth after a substantial setback by recognizing that exchanges, brokers, counterparty risk is very real, and what you don't hold is not yours. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Until next time, bye-bye.